Well, Slayer, I I've been a geek all my life. I was messing around with soldering iron at the age of 5, and then I happened. My father was an engineer. I happened electrical engineer. And I happened to electronic engineer. I happened to be at that age where, you know, my interest was electronics, and then eventually along came the computer, and that happened at just the right time, as when I was 11, 12, and computers came into the home. So I'm one of the generation that came out of the ZX81, BBC Micro, Acorn Atom. I didn't have a ZX81. My route was actually Acorn System 1, then Acorn Atom, and then a BBC Micro. My parents bought me the computers, and it was a joy. I mean, I remember, I mean, it's a long time ago, but I remember programming the Acorn Atom. It was brilliant. Of course, I forget the frustrations as well. Sometimes it was very frustrating trying to figure out why your program wouldn't run, why it wouldn't work. And eventually you get there and figure it out. When I didn't realise it, it was the training for the rest of my life. And that's how it came to be. The first computer I ever programmed, though, was that Hewlett-Packard 9825. I went into my father's work, and he had one of those, and I programmed noughts and crosses on it. Well, great to have you back. You owned an... Was that the Acorn Electron? Yes. Okay. Oh, the Electron. That came later. I never had an Electron. The one before that was the Atom. Yeah, same here. I had a black and white. We found the black and white TV last summer in Italy. I also found a cassette tape. Last summer or the summer before, I can't remember when. Anyway, I found this cassette tape with my saved programs for my Acorn Atom. It was lying in the dirt. The Acorn Atom, no trace of it, but the cassette was there, and it's a backup of all the earliest programs I ever wrote. And I have managed to recover the data off it. Not all of the data yet, but it is recoverable. Okay, so unfortunately when I run the debug build, it doesn't work. That's... now I have to figure out why. Alright, let's try a debug package build. Is it a package problem? The problem with those learn to code in 13 weeks thing is that you don't really learn very much compared to what I learned. Yeah, they have you work in very controlled environments. You can't really experiment. Yeah, it is the experimentation that is key. If you want to learn how to be as good a programmer as people like me are, my recommendation would be to get an old retro hardware and make games for it. Make a game for the BBC Micro. Make a game for the Acorn Atom. I tell you, you will learn a lot that way. Oh, thank you. I didn't see the message. Thanks. Thanks, Raduga. So, I have to see. I was downloading a debug package build. It's running the debug package build. Yeah, it doesn't work. This is disastrous. So I can make new builds, but I can't debug them currently. So for the moment, I've got to try and figure out a solution to this, Raduga. But one thing, if you wish to try it out, I have modified the way slides work. So I really would like some feedback on that. They're a little bit different. And I also implemented the little flick. When you grab the ball, you can flick the ball. Okay, excellent. Meanwhile, I've got to try and figure out how to fix the problem with debugging, which is really difficult. If you've got a debug build doesn't run, how do you debug when you can't make a debug build? Yes. Yeah, but you make a game, write your own engine. It's not so bad as long as you don't have the intention of writing a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. You know, if you keep it simple. The hardest to target development for is the one with the most fragile workflow and tools, whichever one that is. It's all that. As you guys have seen in the last over a year of streaming, how much time I actually spend working on game. It's very, very little. You've seen me work on build servers, you've seen me work on netplay, you're seeing me right now about to embark on figuring out why the game doesn't run in debug. That's it. I think it depends what you want to do. If you want to code to make video games, your best bet, really, seriously, is to even, target the simplest. Write them in BASIC. First game, write it in BASIC. But unfortunately, there are all these tools, aren't there, like Game Maker and all the rest of it. And what they're always trying to do, this dream that people had, you'll be able to make video games without programming. Oh God, I've tried them, to be fair. It doesn't work at all because I find myself constrained by whatever it is, and in the end it becomes messy. So it's very difficult. Usually these methods are very easy to create something small and simple, but as soon as it becomes complicated, it starts to become an absolute pain. And doesn't really do the business. In fact, that's why if you want to teach programming, a programming course for video games, the most important thing to teach is software architecture. He says bitterly. There's nothing more in this. How you structure and design your code is the most important thing, because without that, you're destined only to start projects and never actually successfully finish them. Okay, Okay, so here's the thing. There is... I could leave it to you to figure out. You could try figuring out what I've done and then I tell you, or I can tell you. It's up to you. There is a change in the slide. And yes, you can actually reduce... Because of what I've done, it is possible to deliberately shorten the length of the slide without reducing the stick throw. I can talk more about that. The other one is the flick. When you have the ball, when the ball is stuck to you, if you tap the button while the ball is stuck to you, because you've managed to do a slide that controls the ball, when you tap it, it does the little flick in the direction of the stick. Okay, how am I going to... I need to look at the console output. Yeah, there's a problem that it's tried to allocate too much memory. Out of memory, could not get memory for large allocation. And I had this the other day. The problem is it's trying to allocate 3 gigs of memory. Okay, I get some stuff executing here. Matchmaking. Base running, waiting for startup. In the matchmaking update. Then there's a bunch of other stuff. And it doesn't tell me where... this is pain. It is Windows 7, but I reverted the look, and I like it. I prefer the retro look. It's cleaner, it's clearer, and it's less wasting less CPU. Yeah, exactly. Make a game on Arduino. Oh, it's such fun. Connect a 8x8 multicolor display and then invent a game. Okay, well, what's the allocation? You know, okay, I have something of a plan, maybe. Let me try making a. So I'm going to build settings here. Can I just turn off all these? So there's just a splash screen, and then I'll just load the splash screen. Because it doesn't even get to the splash screen. Hey, Copite, have you programmed in Pascal and COBOL? Yeah, but it's always like that, Copite. It's the most important thing is the structure of your code. And that's where I think they go wrong with the education these days, is they teach people programming backwards. They start with, this is how you do something, but they don't start with the why, they don't start with the structure. Admittedly, if you're teaching yourself, you're always focusing on what. The process of learning by yourself is that you set yourself some kind of task. and then you stumble around and figure out how to do it. Then you want to modify it, and then you find the way you structured your code makes modifying it a pain. And you try, and then it becomes more of a tangle, and then you go, I have to rewrite it again from scratch. And then you learn the lesson, which is there's a better way to structure your code. It's a fantastic way of learning, but it's very slow. There was one colleague I had, I was really annoyed about him because we were talking about, the teaching philosophy and all the rest of it, and he was advocating project-based learning, and he said, well, how did you learn AI? I was like, what the frack? I'm a fracking pioneer. You can't compare it. I had to teach myself. There was no education. So how did I learn it? It took me to be able to do the AI of just the code in Kickoff. Took something like 8 years of training, of hard training, where I taught myself in my spare time on all these computers that I got, programming in BASIC, and then learning an assembler and so on, and learning the lessons that I was just saying over and over again. Sure, you can do it that way. It's going to take you fracking 8 years, though. So, maybe there's actually some value in giving a bit of direction with traditional course material, where the stuff that you get the students to pay attention to is the stuff that they will eventually need. There's non-negotiable. You need to know. That's what I used to teach. I used to teach the stuff you need to know. Whether you think you need to know it or you don't think you need to know it, eventually you need to know it. So you might as well learn it now. And then, once you've got that, then you'll be in a strong position to go and do your experimenting and all the rest of it, And but everywhere, education's everywhere. That rigor is. And it was what was tough, because the students never got taught that rigor at their previous education, at their schools. No rigorous thinking. It was all like, oh, well, you need this. Well, Google, here's a bit of code. We tried that, and this doesn't work very well. Why? It's like, hey, Copite, good night, mate. The sad thing is that a lot of kids learning to program nowadays are getting into this mentality of just relying on others for help and not experimenting enough. Exactly. We have a lot of apprentice web developers coming through our company, and they don't try to figure out anything for themselves. Yeah, I know. And students were the same. They just want me to tell them how to do it. It's like, no, you need to learn how to think. If I just tell you how to do it, you won't learn to think. It's quite sad. So, do you know how you're doing the short slides? Oh, you can do that in the release. Absolutely. The length of the slide, even with KOR as it is now,